Everybody's talking at the comic spot. The comic spot. The comic spot. Everybody's talking at the comic spot. The comic spot.
Hi, folks. Stick
Hello,
around.
everybody.
Yeah, stick around. This is just the intro part. Don't bolt on us. Al Martin has a lot to say. I'm going to be really brief here, Al. He's a comedian, a longtime New York City comedy club owner, and author of the #1 book on Amazon in its category, Did It on a Dare: How I Built a Comedy Empire in 30 Short Years. You got to get the book. And he's also here to plug his new hit podcast. Let's hear all about it. Let's go right to him and see where he wants to take us today on this podcast. And now, the man of the hour, Al Martin.
Hey, how
Hi.
are you? Thank you.
I'm fine. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Just relaxing here in sunny South Florida. I've got a pretty view of the ocean, the Intracoastal, and Linda Marcus. What more can I ask for? And my morning coffee.
Oh my gosh. Wow. So there's a lot going on in comedy these days. What's that like? How is what's happening in the news with comedy affecting comedy in New York and Florida?
Well, of course, we have the whole Dave Chappelle thing going on with Saturday Night Live, and we've also lost a couple of really legendary people in the comedy world in the last week or two. So, yeah, it's been a crazy kind of week in comedy.
Has. Did you watch
Probably,
Did you watch Dave on Saturday Night Live?
I'll be honest with you. I haven't watched Saturday Night Live in so many years. I I was a fan of the very first Saturday Night Live, which is going to make me ancient, but I used to love Belushi, Chevy Chase, Gilda. I had a crush on Gilda Radner. So anything after that, I mean, there've been, things that are really funny. I love Adam Sandler and Eddie Murphy, but the show, to me, I've lost interest in the last number of years. And personally, I was rooting for Chappelle. I think him alone is probably got more funny things to say than that entire writing staff.
I agree. He talked all about anti-Semitism and he made it funny. It was uncomfortable, and I'm only half Jewish. It was uncomfortable, but that's kind of some of the fun with Dave Chappelle.
I don't know, as long as it's being said in that comedy genre, which brings me to another subject, cancel culture. I'm nauseous of it already. I'm tired already. I wish that the people that want to cancel everybody get canceled themselves. And we've lost our sense of humor as a country. All we seem to do is want to fight with each other.
So bad.
Democrats fighting with Republicans, Republicans fighting with Democrats, Republicans fighting with Republicans. It's like we've been so divided. I feel like there's a master puppet behind all of this that's just laughing at everybody fighting with each other. I won't discuss politics anymore with people because it just leads nowhere. Hey, Linda, have you ever seen somebody on Facebook say, you're making some great points over there. I think I'm going to agree with you and totally just go away from my thought that I came here with. Nobody's doing that. Nobody's doing that.
Nobody.
So if nobody's doing that, and then I love the best one of them all is when people are calling you a fascist for 10 minutes, and then they go, you know what? I'm blocking you because I don't agree with what you say. Isn't that the very definition of a fascist? So the world is upside down is all I can say. And I just surround myself with positive people that want to be funny. And I don't want to get into this politics discussion. It's brutal.
It's brutal. It's horrible.
Well,
I
I'll give
my
you another perfect example. People on Twitter for the last 10 years are saying whatever the hell they want. And now, because somebody they don't agree with is buying Twitter, they're all leaving Twitter. Well, welcome to the world of people that couldn't say anything on Twitter all these years because they would get censored by the moderators. So it's crazy.
It's nuts. My whole comedy set right now, the premise of it is I am a boomer, but I identify as a young person because everything that they do is exactly what I do. And then I go through everything that how we're exactly all alike. And it's like the audience really loves hearing it because they've never heard people talk about what we have in common.
Yeah, I mean, the whole world's gotten crazy, really, and I'm not playing with that. I want to do goofy things, surround myself with people that are positive, and that's it.
Yes. If we look, even if somebody identifies as a pregnant penguin from Paraguay, you can find something you have in common with them. Look
Or
for
there are
it.
some people that'll have an issue with it. I don't like Paraguay. I was in Paraguay one day and somebody wasn't nice to me. So I think I'm going to cancel Paraguay. And penguins, why do a penguin only has black and white on it? Why don't they have purple? And they're discriminating against objects and people that are purple. Let's cancel the penguin. And there's a poor penguin out in the Arctic Sea who doesn't even know why they're being canceled.
And then there's somebody out there with a conspiracy theory that penguins are really Charlie Chaplin come back to life.
Yes, yes. And why didn't the penguin get a little bigger? Because if the penguin was bigger, then the whales would have more food to eat. So, it's like you can't make anybody happy.
Well, I'm dying to know about you want to you mentioned that you want to plug your new podcast and of course your hit book, but I also want to know if you're able to do that for the masses, what does Broadway Comedy Club look for when you receive notification someone's coming to town and they want to get on a show?
Okay, well, sure. Which one you want me to cover first?
Your new podcast, and
Yes.
I want to end with it too.
Sure. So my new podcast is, I did Broadway Comedy Club Radio for a number of years, and now we're pivoting. I'm pivoting with a new co-host, Neil Berliner. Very, Neil?
Yes, I love him.
Yeah, very funny guy. Been around the comedy world for a number of years, and he and I decided we're both down in South Florida. And we were originally talking about how can we get some free meals down here, So we wanted to do a podcast. Yeah, everybody else is getting early bird specials, free meals. They have coupons, have 2-for-1 birthday gift, So I don't get any of that stuff. So we figured we'd do a podcast live every week from a restaurant, and in exchange for the plug for the restaurant, we'd get a free meal. So that didn't materialize because even though we wanted free meals, it turned out we're very lazy and we didn't want to leave our place to go meet in a restaurant to get the free meal when there's Zoom. So just like you and I are doing, we decided to start doing the podcast on Zoom. And the other reason is when we got to the studio the first time to do it in the studio, the person from the studio, the engineer, was coughing and phlegming all over the place 2 feet away from us. We had to get up and walk away. COVID and comedy, I didn't want to take that chance. So, I said, this ain't going to work. Let's just do Zoom.
Absolutely. So Neil Berliner, has he ever been teased about what Kennedy said when he was in Berlin?
I don't think so. He might have been teased about his hair, but he hasn't been teased about that, I don't think. But he's a brilliant mind, he's a very smart guy, knows his comedy inside out. He was on the Howard Stern show, I think, as a writer for a number of years, and he's a very funny guy. He's performed at the Friar. He's performing soon at the Friars Club. Hey, I'm not going to make this a post about Neil Berliner. This is my 35, 40 minutes with you. The hell with Berliner. Let him get his own time.
Oh my gosh. So your podcast is called what?
It's called Stand Up Taller Podcast, because I'm 6'2" and Neil is 4'8". So no, I think he's about 5 feet tall, but we have fun with that. And it's a pretty good podcast. Basically, what we do is we get a guest every week. We have some fun with that guest. We do some food reviews. We talk about politics a little bit. We have a great episode probably dropping today on politics. We're going to have some great special guests. And you can find it on YouTube, Stand Up Taller Podcast. You can find it on iHeartRadio. We're on iHeartRadio Comedy Podcast. So, and of course, on my Facebook page, his Facebook page. You can find us on the menu at any of your great restaurants. No, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of fun. We'll be on Spotify, Pandora. I don't know. We're on all of them.
I'm looking it up right now as you talk. That's fabulous. So
Yeah.
you're not saying who some of your first guests are?
Well, our first guest was last week. It's already out there. Is Madison Malloy, and she does a great. Madison had a very interesting history on Wall Street. Very successful in the financial world, and then she wrote a book called, "Lighten the F Up." In other words, perfect, because we're talking about cancel culture and how people have lost a sense of humors. So she wrote a fabulous book on that, and we had her on as a guest. She was terrific. And this next episode that's dropping probably sometime today or tomorrow, we decided to do something on the elections. So we had some very special drop-in guests who I don't want to reveal until people watch the episode, but it is blockbuster, big league guests on the show. And then our next episode next week is going to be Jackie the Joke Man Martling, one of the true legends of comedy. So we've got some great episodes already up. We have another one up later today, and that Jackie Martling one, I'm sure, is going to be fabulous.
Oh man, that's going to be great. I love seeing people off stage when they're just being themselves.
Yeah, I mean, the most enjoyable time for me when I visit my clubs is to hang out in the green room and talk to the comedians. You never know where the topics go. You could start on one topic, go to another, trash someone else. It's a lot of fun.
Oh my goodness sakes. So
did I tell you I'm thinking about writing? I'm writing another book.
No.
Yes, I'm writing another book. It's going to be based on some of the great conspiracies in world history. I'm going to write about the Kennedy assassination. Hey, say hello to Lucy. Lucy's here, my little kitty cat.
Hi, Lucy.
She'll probably bite me sometime during the episode, but we have. I'm writing about some of the great conspiracies of the world. One of them is, did Hitler escape the bunker in 1945? The Kennedy assassination, stuff surrounding Elvis's death. So it's going to have a bunch of different conspiracy theories. We're going to prove them or disprove them in the book.
Fabulous.
I've been doing a tremendous amount of research. I've been boring the hell out of my wife, going through some of these things. So It's been very fascinating. So that's one book I'm working on, and of course, there's my original book, uh, which you were very glad to have me on when it first came out to discuss it, which is I did it on a dare, how I built the comedy empire in 30 short years. So,
So
and how
how's
COVID is going to ruin it in two. No,
it tried, didn't it?
it really did try, but I gotta say, thank God for the emergency help we got from the government, the emergency uh, unemployment stuff. It helped my staff and myself and my kids get through it. So I'm very appreciative for that, and appreciative that we're able to reopen in a safe way, and that hopefully people will, start coming out, in which they have. We had a record-breaking weekend this week in New York. So I'm very happy about that and very proud about it. And love all my customers and comics that came out and performed. And we're back. We're back, baby.
Absolutely. I was watching Walk with Stephen Marshall, and he
I've
was
never seen a man walk so much like him. He walks and walks and walks. What is it with my buddy Steve? He's always walking somewhere.
oh my gosh. And he plays basketball and he boxes, and then he gets on stage and he's all over the map on the stage.
Well, I'll tell you something, Linda. I wanted to go on a walk with Steve one day, and I was too lazy to do it because I don't want to walk that much. So I said to him, "Why don't we, do expand the brand and let's do a drive with Steve?" So him and I drove. We went to Brooklyn, New York, and we started in Coney Island and drove through all of Brooklyn, and we turned it into a video. And right now it's sitting on close to 20,000 views on social media.
I want to see it. I didn't see it yet.
Yeah. Just go to, I'll send you the link. I'll look for it. But, it was a lot of fun. We got to see, him and I are both from Brooklyn. We grew up just a few minutes from each other. And, we had a lot of fun doing it because it brought us back to a time and a place that was very different than today.
Yes. What part of Brooklyn are you from, Al?
I'm from Midwood, and Steve was from Flatbush. He went to Midwood High School. Where are you from, Linda?
Originally, I'm from Portland, Oregon, but my parents came over here after the Holocaust, and they lived up in Jewish Harlem in 1947.
Yeah, Harlem was a Jewish area at one time, so it's gone through numerous changes through the years.
Yeah, it has. It's nice to see. I went through the Harlem area on my trip here because I wanted to feel connected to my parents coming there, and it was so cool seeing the Apollo and Jamie Roberts Club up there. Jamie and
Nikki. Jamie and Nikki Sunshine opened a club in Harlem, and I love Jamie Roberts and Nikki because they work very hard. A lot of people bitch and moan and complain, and Jamie's always had his eye on the ball, and he concentrates and works hard, and I see a lot of myself from 20, 30 years ago in him, and I wish him all the luck and success.
Yes, absolutely. I had the
He's
video.
one of the good guys. I find him to be one of the good guys in the business.
Yes.
And not too many of those.
No. I had that interview with Sinbad, and he submitted it to the Apollo to see if they want it in their archives.
Oh, and what happened with that?
We haven't heard back, but at least they know they can have it.
That's great.
Yeah.
How's Sinbad doing? He's been around forever, right?
Yeah. Like 2 years ago, he had a stroke and a brain bleed, and he hasn't been seen publicly since. So all we can do is pray.
Yeah. Yeah. He's an amazing talent. Very, very funny guy. I never got to really meet him. So I'm fat. I've seen and met so many of the great comedians around, but when there's one that I haven't met, I always find that fascinating. Like
Yes.
how are they? Why did I miss it? But some of them were around before I was in comedy, I mean, so there's a generation before me that I really didn't get to know.
Yes. Who is somebody living or in the past that you wish you would have met? The one that got away.
Sam Kinison. I
Wow.
loved Sam Kinison. He was a real rebel of comedy.
He was.
Uh, I've met Robert Klein. I've met Joan Rivers. Joan Rivers is my absolutely favorite comedian of all time.
I was just
I've
watching her last night.
ah, she was the answer to a lot of trivia questions that I would ask. Who was a comedian that both an 18-year-old and an 80-year-old would know? And only one came to mind, really, and that was Joan Rivers. Maybe Seinfeld, but Joan Rivers was one that you knew her from, if you were in your 80s, you knew her from the early days of stand-up comedy, The Tonight Show. Then then she went through the period of time when she was hawking products on QVC, right? Then she had an era when she was also hosting The Tonight Show herself, or a competitor of The Tonight Show. She was guest hosting The Tonight Show and then went on to another network. And then there was her reality show, which brought in a whole other younger generation. So Joan Rivers is one of the only comedians I can think of that everybody knew who Joan Rivers are. Now, you and I might know who Don Rickles is, but younger people might not know, believe it or not, who Don Rickles it was. I met Don Rickles. I was very fortunate to meet him.
What was that like?
Oh, it was incredible. It was incredible. It was backstage at one of his last performances, because he died 6 months later. But I got to tell you a fascinating story. So I'm backstage with him, and we were talking, and he was told that I owned a couple of comedy clubs in Manhattan, and he turned around and whispered to me. He says, "Can I ask you for a favor?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "My daughter does stand-up comedy, and if she's ever in New York, can you take care of her and give her some stage time?" And I'm thinking, here's Don Rickles. Well, everybody's going to give his daughter, I think her name's Mindy Rickles, going to give her stage time. And here was a guy, the great Don Rickles, like any other father, could you help my daughter out, please?
That's
And
so
I thought that was incredible. Everybody has this image of him as an insult guy, da da da. But at the end of the day, to me, he was another father, just saying, "Can you get my daughter on stage for a few minutes?"
that says a lot. That's a
Very
lot.
humble, very humble.
Gladys Simon has that Zoom show, and Mindy is in California, and she came on there a few times. And one time, Gladys asked a question: what would we all like to have? At what moment would we like to have? And I said, I would love to be able to hang out with Mindy for a day. And she said, you wouldn't have when I was growing up, because of all of I think she said the mob, that was involved.
Ah,
So
well, those days, I guess they were very involved in the entertainment business. And as we know, Don Rickles was an opening act for Frank Sinatra, and there's all sorts of controversy in terms of Frank Sinatra and the mob. So, it's possible.
yeah.
I always loved the great story about Don Rickles and Frank Sinatra. I don't know if you've ever heard it, where one day Don Rickles walks over to Frank Sinatra and says, "Hey, Frankie, do me a favor, okay? I'm going to have a date tonight with a girl at Patsy's restaurant in New York, and which is still there, by the way, on 56th Street. I'm going to be with this girl. I want you to come over and say hello. It'll really help me out and impress the girl." and maybe I'll get lucky, right? So Frank says, no problem, buddy. I'll do that. He comes over later that night to the restaurant. He walks over to the table and he says, hey, Don, how you doing? Rickles turns around and says to him, hey, Frank, can't you see I'm here with a girl having dinner? Get out of here. You're cramping my style. And so Sinatra was standing there like dumbfounded.
Oh my gosh. So
Always
many,
one of the funniest stories I've ever heard.
so many people love that Don Rickles style. And I hate to
Oh.
see it go away with the cancel culture.
Well, it's very sad because today, you know, you can't say anything without hurting somebody's feelings, you know. Oh, I got a fourth cousin that has autism. That's disgusting that you say that about autistic people, you know, I mean, or my 17th cousin is a German Jew who's bisexual. And I don't like that you made a joke about that topic. I mean, where does it end?
It's
We've
crazy.
lost our collective sense of humor.
Yes, we have. The other thing that bothers me on the other end of the spectrum is hate speech that's couched inside a comedy to get away with it.
Yeah, I mean unfortunately that's the balance, you know. If you allow hate speech, that's I like when does it go from hate speech to infringing on someone's right to say a funny joke? I don't know. I think instead of trying to cancel the person, let people just decide for themselves. Do I want to see that comedian or not see that comedian? But there's like someone tried to do it to me the other day. They didn't like a comedian that was on my stage, and they insisted that I never book that comedian again. And I said, well, I don't see it that way, and I'm not going to do that. And they said, I'm never going to patronize your club again. And I said, well, don't. I don't want a customer like you. So it costs you money, but you got to have some kind of principles.
Yes. When we get to principles, that brings me back to Joan Rivers, how she would never apologize.
No, and that's what I loved about her. She was great. Joan Rivers was terrific. I got to meet her I actually got to meet her twice. I was a security officer many years back in another life, another world when I was in college. And maybe a few years after that, I don't remember exactly, but my assignment was a hotel in Manhattan where she owned an apartment. And, one of the things I would do is make the rounds and make sure all the apartment doors were locked. And I happened to hit her door when she was nearby, and she opened the door and said, who are you and what are you doing here? And I just said, I'm just security. And, she goes, well, you scared me more than it would be if there was a burglar in here, But then I met her years later doing stand-up. I was on her show. She had a talk show for a while, the Joan Rivers show. And I did stand-up comedy on that show. I did a set.
What was that like?
That was like probably one of the most incredible experiences in my life, because I always looked up to Joan Rivers. And I think that and my performance at the TV show A&E's Evening at the Improv, and at the Improv, and I did a week at the Vegas Improv with my name up in lights, and also at the Melrose Improv, I did spots. Those were really highlights for me in my stand-up career. And for that, I have to thank Ross Mark, who was booking those venues at the time, and his stepdad, Bud Friedman, who unfortunately we lost yesterday.
Yeah.
So Bud Friedman, to me, was a true visionary in the comedy business. I mean, this guy started a club on 44th Street in Manhattan, little coffee house, music. Then he decided to incorporate some stand-up comedians, and the thing took off. So he was really there at the beginning of stand-up comedy, and then took it through so many different reincarnations. He brought it to TV. He brought it online with, streaming stuff. So to me, he was a brilliant man. And I remember the first time I met him was many years back when I was only in the business a couple of years. And he was at the Montreal Comedy Festival. And someone told me, that's Bud Freeman owns all the improvs. And I looked at him like, a kid looking at Mickey Mantle. This guy was truly a legend in the comedy business at that point. And that's almost 30 years ago. So he always was involved in cutting edge stuff. I'm sorry, I have a little bit of a sore throat.
Hopefully it's just a sore throat, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Nowadays you have a sore throat and everybody's like, COVID, it's COVID. Believe me, I've had 4 shots. I've had a flu shot, I had pneumonia shot, and I still have a cold today, so I don't know what these shots are. Shingle shot. I can't. I got so much crap floating in me now. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, you're probably going to morph into something else. Like it's going to change your DNA.
Yeah, right. It's possible.
We don't even know.
Possible. Yeah. So we did lose a true giant in Bud Freeman, and we lost a great comedian who was controversial within the comedian world, but to me, funny is funny and entertaining is entertaining. But we lost Gallagher, who was a major loss to our community as well.
Yes. Did he ever come to your clubs and smash?
Yes.
Did
He didn't smash the pumpkin. I mean the watermelon, but he did come to my club and do a set.
Did it take a long time to clean up after him?
Yes.
He
was at Broadway Comedy Club. So, but we have a big stage there. So, I said, make a mess of one half of the stage, But you can't tell comedians anything because when you tell them something, they do the opposite. I don't know if it's on, right? I don't know if it's on.
Yeah, whatever you tell them, they'll just do it. That's what make them want to do it.
I'll tell you a funny story, and you might have met him because I think he's out in Vegas now. A comic by the name of Tommy Savit?
Yes, I love Tommy Savit.
He's so funny, right? Well, Tommy Savit years ago was working at the New York Comic Con when he was based in New York, and he came in very upset. And I go, what's the matter? He goes, Al, I was at Pips Comedy Club in Brooklyn. I was doing a set, and I stretched out my arm, and I smashed the neon sign at Pips, like $500 worth of damage. And it just so happened that day I had a new neon sign put in at New York Comedy Club when I owned it. And I said to Tommy, do me a favor. I have a brand new neon sign. Don't screw it up. Just be careful, stay away from it. I'm not kidding you. 20 minutes later, he walked out of the room all depressed. I go, what's the matter? He goes, I broke your neon sign. I go, you broke my neon sign? You broke one of Pips? I told you to be careful, and now you broke this neon sign? I couldn't help it. I don't know what happened. So it's like comics. You tell them one thing, and they do another. It's like, the hell?
Jeez. My gosh.
Jesus, right.
I love what Tommy Savit is doing, where he's this pseudo guru, and the whole persona and all his jokes are also tightly wrapped.
Yeah, he's a funny guy.
Yes,
I always liked Tommy.
Yeah. I met him in Portland at Harvey's when I volunteered there.
And he's a pretty down to earth guy, right? He's not gone on himself. like
Yeah,
a lot of people.
he was my second interview, and he would not let me interview him as Tommy. He made me interview him as Tommy Llama.
Tommy Llama. Okay, we could do that. Tommy Llama.
It was crazy. So you have the new podcast.
Yes.
Tell me the name of it again. I took it.
Stand Up Taller podcast with myself, Neil Berliner, Jason Scoop. I don't know if you know Jason Scoop.
No.
And yep. And Grant. Grant Tinker, I believe is his last name. I hope. But yes, so it's going to be a lot of fun. We just launched it. First guest was Madison Malloy. We're doing, like I said, a political, for those that turned in late, a political show this week, which is not going to be your ordinary boring politics, with polls and anything. We have some real funny special guests coming on. And then next week, Jackie Martling. So it's going to be fun.
You know who would be good on your show would be Wendy Liebman, because she has a special called Taller on TV.
Oh, Wendy Liebman, one of my favorite comedians. I love her.
Yeah.
Very funny. Very, very funny act.
Yeah.
You're so blessed to have so many of these great performers, right? In Las Vegas area.
Yes. Oh my gosh. There's so many here. People come here and then they're like, oh, I want to do stage time. Well, get in line. There are so many legends here.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a pretty good comedy scene, right? In Vegas, a lot of places that you can perform, or not too many.
Oh, there's tons of them. I mean, trying to get into the Comedy Cellar or Brad Garrett's, no, but getting into Notoriety, LA Comedy Club, places like that, that's been a possibility for a lot of people.
I don't know how I didn't wind up living in Vegas with all the not free, but the buffets and the comedy scene and entertainment. The hell am I doing in New York and Florida? I should be out in Vegas.
Remember how it used to be like $2 for a breakfast in Vegas?
Oh my God. I used to remember staying at the Riviera, and across the street, what was it? Slots of Fun, it was called. A quarter-pound hot dog was 99 cents. A shrimp cocktail was 99 cents. Heineken's were 50 cents, right?
Yes.
I love you know what it is, when I go to Vegas, I love to go to those kitschy places. I like to go downtown for the deep fried Twinkies, and seeing all the characters downtown. The Strip, I don't care about that. That's too corporate. I like the kooks downtown.
They have it where downtown there's little circles on the pavement, on the Fremont Experience circles, and you can contact the city of Las Vegas and stand there and tell jokes or play
Really?
music. I've done that.
Have you done that? That's great.
You make a lot of fans, and you can make
That's great.
tips.
That's even more important, right?
Yeah.
Cool. I wish I could if you ever have a video of you doing that, I'd love to see that.
Oh, I'll get out there this week and get a video.
Oh, that would be terrific. I'd love to see that.
I
That
just got
sounds like
done
fun.
doing comedy at the Southwest Airlines ticket counter the other day. I got that video.
Oh, I think I saw that. I think you showed it to me. I remember doing an episode in Vegas of my other podcast, Broadway Comedy Club Radio, and we did man on the street interviews, and they were hysterical because you get all sorts of characters in Vegas, and we were just doing man on the street interviews and picking up crazy topics, and I'll tell you, people were outstandingly funny on that, just on the fly.
I love that. There's nothing better. Nothing
Yeah.
better. People are crazy, especially when they don't know what to say and then they guess what they should say. And I love man on the street kind of things. I know Nikki Paris and Adam Hunter have been doing that a lot out in California, kind of man on the street, ambush comedy.
Yeah, they're very, very funny. They're
Yeah.
very, very funny.
Yes.
I love Adam Hunter.
Oh, don't
Did
you?
did you say Adam Hunter or Adam Sandler?
Adam Hunter.
Oh, okay. Okay. I love Adam Sandler too, but Adam Hunter's a nice guy. He started many years ago at the New York Comedy Club when I had it. And he's been doing some great things ever since, right?
Yes. He does the UFC comedy, comedy for the fighters. Oh my God.
yes, I did see something on that.
Wow. What a niche for him.
So let's do the segment where I interview you for a few minutes. How's that?
Sounds great.
Because my voice is going to hell, as you can hear.
Okay.
So we're on the air here with Linda Marcus. Keep thinking about Robin Lakin. You guys kind of
Yes.
look a little alike.
We
And
do.
she's doing a comedy festival, the female comedy festival at my club coming
Yeah.
up, I believe, this weekend. But and you can go to BroadwayComedyClub.com to check that out. See how I got the plug in there? So Linda Marcus, what are you up to?
Well, I've been busy and I just got back from featuring for the great Jimmy Earl. He's my buddy from 2019. He had me feature for him 3 times this last week. Oh my gosh, it was so
Wow.
great.
That's great. You know what I love about you? Nothing stops you.
Oh,
Nothing stops you. You just keep on going. You do your thing. And for me to go on a stage, everything's got to be just right. I had to rehearse a million times. I don't want to make a mistake. The audience has got to be a certain amount of people. I won't go up for 5 people. Comics like yourself, you just do it, man. You just do it. You love it. And you go up there and none of that phases you. And I respect that.
thank you. My parents survived the Holocaust. And so when they were our parents, I have 2 siblings, as parents, they were always, and I mean this respectfully, they were out to lunch. The Holocaust was so difficult for them, they couldn't be with us while raising us. They were somewhere else. And
Well,
so
I've always, yeah. Go
my
ahead,
whole
I'm sorry.
childhood was trying to get people to be in this moment.
Well, I'll tell you something.
It muted. I can't hear you. It muted. It muted.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm sorry. I
Okay.
keep getting these annoying texts and calls. I don't know if they're coming up. I told 7 people don't bother me for 40 minutes, and it's like, yeah, it's crazy. But when it comes to Holocaust survivors, Linda, I give them such a leeway in the way they act and the way they do things because they're very hard. Some of them are very hard people, and you can't get sensitive about that because God knows what the hell they went through. And I watch. I told you I'm writing a book on whether Hitler escaped the bunker and all that fun stuff. But when you see the atrocities, what these people went through, not getting served in a restaurant, your eggs, a certain way seems so trivial, right? I mean,
so true. So true.
They were forced into human slave labor, and then when they had no more use as a slave laborer, they were exterminated, and then just thrown in the ground and buried in mass graves. I mean, horrible, just a horrible stench on humanity.
Horrible.
Was that time.
Yeah, and
all
that's
because of one crazy man.
One man.
One crazy man. We talk in modern day about Osama bin Laden, and he took out thousands of people in the World Trade Center, which was horrific in its own right. and he's affected our lives for 20 years since, when we had to go through airline terminals, all of us, for 20 years, taking off our pants, taking off our belt, taking off our belt, which leads to taking off our pants involuntarily. And this man killed 6 million Jews and was responsible for the deaths of 20 million other, total people, Russians, gypsies, homosexuals. It was horrible. So
Absolutely. That's where hate, that's where hate happens, I mean, hate, that's what bothers me when somebody starts talking to me when they think they're better than somebody else. That's such a turnoff, because we know where that kind of thinking can end up if you're, nobody's better than anybody else.
correct. Yeah, it's crazy. It's a crazy world we live in now. And, it's bad. It's, and I just hope we don't head to times like during the Holocaust again, with all this craziness going on. And, people, I think we're in very scary times, if you ask me. I hope something happens to calm the world down,
Me too. You would think going through the pandemic would have taught everybody to be kinder.
Yes, during the pandemic, as soon as that's over, all bets are off. Everybody goes back to their stupidity.
I just don't understand it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I love
Linda,
to
I'm
make
kind of losing my voice.
we should cut it short. So
I think so.
you have the new podcast, 2 episodes that are dropping, and it's called Stand Up Taller on
Yes.
YouTube, Stand Up Taller, or on Al Martin YouTube, right?
Yes.
And Spotify.
Yes. Spotify, Al Martin's Broadway Comedy Club page, Al Martin's page. It's on everything. It's also on iHeartRadio. It'll be on Stitcher shortly. So yes.
And you have the book that is #1 seller in its category, called
Yes.
I Did It on a Dare: How You Started a Comedy Empire in 30 Short Years.
Yes. You're one of the few people that got it right. Everybody they get lazy. Did it on a dare. Some people called it 30 Short Years. How about just combine the two?
Well, gosh, it's been great to be with you, and I'm coming out for a quick trip on April 27th. I get to host over at Comic Strip, so I'm looking forward to it.
How fabulous that is,
Yes.
right? Jerry Seinfeld once said that you've made it when you're on the stage of the Comic Strip doing a 9:00 show. Well, I guess nowadays it's an 8:00 show, right?
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Al Martin. Take care of your voice.
Thank you.
Say hello to your wonderful wife and family.
And let me know when this episode drops, because 2 of the stupidest things that comedians do, they produce a show and they send everybody a flyer for the show, except the venue where they're doing it, so we can put it on the website. And people drop an episode of their podcast with a guest, and they post it all over, but don't give it to the guest to promote it,
So smart. Thank you so much. I think I've been guilty of that. I will
There you
get that to
go.
you. Thank you,
Get that
Al.
to me so I can promote Linda's podcast.
Thank you, Al Martin. Bye.
And
Love
thank you
bud.
for giving me this opportunity. You're the
Thank
best.
you so much for coming.
My pleasure.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Everybody's talking at the comic spot. The comic spot.